Pete Carroll doesn't survive him competing for staying the coach in Seattle, to use his language. He's out. And I'm wondering if Dan Quinn's the through line here, because if Quinn is in play, he was last year, but the Titans had Vrabel, and they were definitely keeping with Pete Carroll in Seattle last year. I'm just wondering if is there any connective tissue here as to why suddenly Pete was out? What happened there, Tom?
It's not a direct line to Dan Quinn. It's not as simple as Pete's out, Dan's in. I would certainly anticipate, knowing the relationship, John Schneider is going to want to interview Dan Quinn. A lot of people want to interview Dan Quinn, and I think that he's a real candidate in a place like Tennessee. He's a real candidate in Washington. He's got slips from Carolina and the Chargers. There's a bunch of places where Dan Quinn is going to be in the mix. Now, I would also say Seattle for 14 years under Pete Carroll established a pretty cool culture in terms of just like the way that they have this competitive energy, this positivity, the way that they do things. Like, maybe you're looking for something a little bit different in this regard, just in terms of like how you hold people accountable, the style of football you play. Because we all know Pete wanted to avoid turnovers, play really good defense, and then we'll cut it loose in the fourth quarter if we have to. Maybe you shift away from that a little bit, but you're not going to see this massive swing away culturally, I don't believe, in Seattle. That doesn't mean that you have to get somebody who's been there before, because Dan Quinn would be the frontline guy in that. But I know this, John Schneider, when you have a 72-year-old head coach, you're always kind of evaluating, having a list ready if at some point Pete wanted to walk away, or the Seahawks, in this case, wanted to move on. So I would anticipate he's going to interview all the hot names. They haven't put out their interview slips yet, which, by the way, and I learned this, Rich, through the course of this wild past week here.
Yes.
There's a process actually even before you put the slips out in terms of writing the job description now. The league has to approve it. Then they have to post the job, not on like monster.com, but they have to like post it internally.
Yeah.
And there's like a bunch of rules there. So until they approve the language and it's posted, you can't even put out the slips. So that's where you've got some of these delays that have happened in recent days. It's not that the Seahawks are ill prepared for the moment. They'll be ready to go here. And for Pete Carroll, I would say this, Rich, it reminded me of 2008, March 6, 2008, when Brett Favre retired for the first time. And Brett was tearful, and I was at that press conference at Lambeau Field, which shows how long I've been doing this stuff. And he said, I know I can still play, but I don't think I want to. Pete Carroll goes to the podium on, I think it was Tuesday, I've lost track of days, and says, I competed hard. I'm happy for the organization. I'm going to be here for you. Johnny Schneider, you're my guy. It's been 14 years. You really get to do this thing now. But, hey, I'm ready to go, and I'm fired up for what's next. To me, that was Pete walking a very fine line. I thought it was the classiest, most genuine goodbye from a really classy, genuine individual. But I did not read that as a goodbye for Pete Carroll to coaching. And if the right job is there in a place that he wants to be with a team he thinks has an opportunity to win right now, I would not be shocked at all, Rich, if we see Pete Carroll on an NFL sideline again.
Wow, gosh. I mean, this is insane. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.